Hi, my name's Lyle Sopel. You're here with me in my studio, and I'm a Jade and Gemstone artist. But as you see today, I'm working on a clay model. And actually, I just started this a few hours ago, and I'm planning some design for my new piece. And I've cut a piece of jade for this idea. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes, as well as a few other really wonderful new materials I have here on the bench. So I don't have anything new to show you today because, and I do apologize for last week because I didn't get a chance to do Thriving in the Art World with me last week because of my show preparation. I was working all through the weekend planning and finishing these pieces that have just gone off yesterday to Seattle. So I'm doing a private show there. And I apologize again because I can't show them to you because they are really designed and created for that group of people that is going to attend the show this coming weekend. And afterwards, though, I will show and post them on Facebook so you can see what I did. I was working on a Puffin piece, as well as, you may remember, an eagle group. It was a pair of eagles, and that they both worked out beautifully. I think there were some of my best pieces, so I look forward to showing them to you next week. So look for that on the Facebook posting. So what I want to talk to you about today is how to be certain that your art will sell. What's the one key thing that you need to know about creating your art so that you can attract a collector to it. So as you can see here, I'm creating a heron, and like I said, I've just started it. But what's really intriguing to me about this theme is the idea of the twist in the head. That's what I really love about it. So it's very sculptural, and so I've been doing a lot of pieces that were made up of a variety of pieces, and so it became very challenging to get that sculptural idea as one piece. So that's what I'm doing here. I kind of want to relax with the idea of building pieces, and I'm going to do it out of one solid piece. So while I'm doing this, I'm actually thinking about the story behind what this piece is. And I know herons are really great frog eaters, and they hunt the swamps and that kind of thing. So I like to think about their environment and what sort of thing they might be doing. So I'm going to maybe plan a small gemstone frog in this in some way. But to start with, I'm kind of just building the heron so that it has a beautiful sculptural form, and go on from there. So storytelling is really the essence of what this sculptural idea will be in the end. And it's so important for collectors and people that want to own your art to be able to relate to it in that way. So when they see it, they have an experience and they have an emotional attachment to the art because of what you did to it. It's like the storytelling in the theater, and like I always say, that sculpture is theater. It's not something that's a static thing. It's not just an object. It's a thing that tells a story. So the idea is, how do you do that? How do you bring that idea into your work? So I'm going to show you this drawing of a piece that I have been planning, and I haven't started it yet. But it's just a pencil drawing of an octopus that might be mounted on a crystal base. Now, I watched a really very cool video this morning about an octopus, and a person had found a small octopus on the beach. It had washed up beyond the tide line, and it was still alive, and so he scooped it up and he put it into the water, and it was still alive, and it swam away. And then it returned, it came back, and his foot was in the water, and the little octopus came back, and it stretched out his tendon and touched him, and held the touch for quite a few minutes. as if to thank him for returning him to the ocean. So, man, that's a really heartwarming story, and it just looked unbelievable. For a wildlife person like myself, I love that sense of the anthropomorphic idea that animals and humans have the same emotional understanding. So I believe that's true. So whenever I think about story and ideas, I try to think about that. And so, like, if I was to create this piece and consider that story, when I showed this piece, I would always tell that story about the octopus that returned back to his savior and touched him to thank him for doing that. So that's one way to introduce story, is when you can share a heartwarming experience that you had, or even that something that you didn't have, and it brings the storyline into the piece, and I think it can work well with all kinds of things. It doesn't have to be sculpture. It could be painting or any other thing that you want to be creating. So I have another piece here that is also a very storied kind of idea, and it's a bear on top of a tree. Now this could be a crystal or a crystal ball of some sort or whatever, but this is a great opportunity for story in this, because how did the bear get there? What's the bear doing? What's the expression? So this gives me lots of opportunity to play with the idea of what this subject matter is doing. And so that's kind of how I get started. And I'm in the, like I've always said before, I'm in the throes of beginning new, but I don't like to be left without some sculptural ideas in the studio at all times. And so, like the other day, I shipped everything away, and so here I am with nothing complete in the studio or even being started. So I'm anxious to get it all happening and get involved with more pieces. So these pieces right here, this is a beautiful piece of tiger's eye from Africa, from Congo, and it's going to be the idea for the tree on this piece here. So the tree is probably going to be made up of several pieces. I'll cut this tiger eye into several pieces and make it like a hollow tree in some way, so that I can build it and put branches onto it. So it'd probably be cut into strips. And this is the base I'm going to use. I'm not going to use a geode. I've got this wonderful piece of black quartz here, and so the tree is going to be mounted on top of that, and a branch, and the bear and Jade on top of that. So these are all really beginnings and how I plan. So I don't necessarily make a pencil drawing or whatever. I just work directly into clay, like this case. So in this piece here, just cut this one about 20 minutes ago. We just cut this piece of Jade, and it's really beautiful. I think it's got this deep green with the chrome spots in it. It's one of my favorite kinds of Jade. So this is for the heron, and it's nice and consistent and even. I can carve it into all kinds of details without it coming apart. So it's important to look into that stone to see what it's like. So, what I'll probably do is just like this. I'll just draw the bird shape into the piece, and based on the drawing, and just kind of get some idea of how it's going to be. So the head will probably be up here, and put the beak in, eyeball. So as you can see, it's very challenging to draw on the rough stone, but it does give me a very good idea of how it could fit in this block. So the neck would wrap around in this way, and this is the body part here. Wing come out, and then there's going to be probably a foot that's going to come off there. So really, I don't worry too much more beyond this point, other than I've got this general idea. And so from here I can probably do these cuts, take that corner off, cut this part out, and I'm getting pretty close to what I want. just to the general shape. And so I'm really just kind of planning the idea, but the impression I want is that there's a story here, and then there's going to be a little creature of some kind in the bottom hiding away. I did a piece not too long ago of a polar bear with a seal on the back of the base, and we called it Risky Business. So the seal was actually coming up looking at the polar bear who was looking away. So Risky Business, see, the title actually adds a great deal to the sense of the story, so you can kind of get it immediately as soon as you look at it. So titling your work is really a big deal as well, is to understand what you're trying to say with your storyline and where you want to begin as your storyline. So also, a really important part is your own personal story, like who are you? And I know I've talked about this again before, but there's no need to be shy or intimidated about people wanting to know who you are, because it's really, it doesn't really matter. It's really, who you are is who you are, and you can't be anybody else. So you can't pretend. It's just who you are. So who you are, the closer you can become to being totally open with people that want to buy your art, the better you will connect with them. And the more emotional connection you'll have with them, the more emotional connection you'll have with your art, and the more likely you will have a sale from it. So it's all part of how you need to think about what you're doing. It's your mindset that you need to really come up with and really feel comfortable with. So just be comfortable with yourself and understand that story is important in the piece that you're working on, and if you could relate another piece or another story to what you're actually creating, then great. That's a wonderful way to be expressive. So another thing we talked about or want to talk about today is the niche market. Like, what's your niche? Where are you in the sense of who you are as an artist, in where you live or where you work? So I think that every artist has their niche, and like in my case, I'm really a jade specialist, or a specialist of hard stones, and so that kind of gives me a niche. But really, my environment is a thing that determines my subject matter, and so, you know, I'm the West Coast, and there's a lot of different animal forms on the West Coast that I like, and there's a lot of you know, different pieces or ideas that come from the environment that I'm in. So that's one thing, your environment. And I know I've got some really good Facebook friends who live in Guatemala and Mexico and places like that. And I think, wow, that environment is so interesting, because there's, you know, the Mayan heritage, and there's all that interesting history in the country that you live in. And so that's such a, you know, an open area you can draw ideas from. And Mayans work with jade as well as, you know, you do today. So that's wonderful to bring that sort of storyline in play with what you do. It's like a modern concept of history. So that's kind of the idea of environment. Speaking of friends, I wanted to say happy birthday to Ashley today, because I know she likes to watch this Facebook program. So happy birthday, and look forward to seeing you again soon. The other thing is materials. That can determine your niche, and as I said, you know, I work with jade, so that gives me that niche in that area. But also, you know, it can be painting, you know, whatever you paint with. You know, like you might want to paint oils, or you paint watercolors, or that kind of things. Like, I know sea scenes or mountain scenes look great with watercolors. So, you know, it's kind of like how you envision yourself and how you feel comfortable in your materials. So it's a matter of kind of looking beyond where you are and how you fit into your environment and how you express through your materials. And yeah, so also your subject matter, of course, and I like wildlife. So that's what I use as determining my niche, and I really specialize in that. Although I work in other subject matter as well, but most often it's wildlife themes. And I think the more you can stay in kind of a theme or a group of pieces, like a theme is probably the best way. Say like wildlife theme, the better chance you have of your clients being identifying with you. Like if I did, you know, baseball players, and then I did a bear, and then I did, you know, a crab on the beach, or, you know, a tree, or whatever mixed of different subjects that I chose, then I might not be able to attract the same kind of people to my art. So I've chosen wildlife themes, and I've chosen that to be in gemstone and gemstone variety. So not just jade, but variety of different stones. So that has given me this opportunity to be different, actually be different in the marketplace, because of what I personally feel is interesting and wonderful to work with. So that's about all we have to talk about today, and I'm going to be leaving tomorrow for Seattle, so wish me luck, and I look forward to talking to you again after I return next week. So I'll share my ideas about how the show was, and some new progress on these pieces by then too. So thanks for watching today. Bye for now.